Hey everybody, Zach here. If you are brand new to the HX Stomp or you're looking to buy one and want to know all of the basics, look no further. My hope in this video is to give you a really comprehensive breakdown of everything you need to know about the HX Stomp. So with that said, if you're new here, like and subscribe if you want more Helix related content, and let's go ahead and let's dive into the Stomp. Now, first things first, let's just go ahead and review the outside of the Stomp just so we've got some familiarity with this unit. Now, of course, this is all pretty obvious, but we've got our foot switches right down here. We have these different knobs where we'll talk about more a little bit later. In the top section of my Stomp, we've got our expression, we've got our input, left, right, our output, our USB, which is going to be critical if we want to do any sort of firmware updates or record straight to our DAW. Our power, and then our on and off switch, which I'll go ahead and turn on now. And then we've got our mini ins and out. We've got our headphone jack here. And then on the other side, we've got our send stereo and then our auxiliary return left and right. This is actually what I use for my pedal board. And then the only thing that I would say when it comes to the layout and the configuration of your inputs and outputs with the Stomp is if you're creating a pedal board for yourself, just be mindful where those different units are. And then that way you don't accidentally block something that's important like I did, like the headphone jack. Now, in this case, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about adjusting between our different modes within the Stomp. Now, right off the bat, we've got this super colorful display. And in this case, we've got where we can go in and use our page left and right to toggle between different modes within the HX Stomp. So this specific mode is my Stomp mode where I can use the foot switch to turn on and off different stomps. If I go page right here, this is going to be my scroll mode where I can now use my foot switch 1 to go up and down on different stomps. And then it's still going to maintain and keep my tap tempo option here and my tuner in the foot switch 3 section. If I go page right again, this is going to be my preset mode, which now you will notice it actually removes the tap tempo tuner option and now fully engages all 3 stomps to be able to navigate between different presets in the Stomp. And then similarly, if I go in and I actually go up and down, want to go up and down on my different banks, if I hit foot switch 2 and 3, you'll see now I can go up and down an entire bank or foot switch 1 and 2. This is also available in all of the other Stomp options except for the Stomp mode. Now, lastly, I want to talk about what I think is probably the most important mode, and this is going to be our snapshot mode. And the reason I think this is the most helpful mode is just simply because you can assign and do so much with a snapshot. Let's just say I want to go in from my clean tone and I want to go into where it says A and B and want to engage maybe an overdrive, a compressor, a delay, a reverb, and a pitch effect all with one click. Well, that's what a snapshot is going to give me the ability to do. And then I can easily disengage that by going back to a different snapshot. Of course, we can talk about that more later. I've got more videos on how to utilize snapshots here if you want to click that link. But now let's go in and let's talk a little bit more about navigating our Stomp and editing a specific preset. Now, let's just say we found a preset that we do want to go in and adjust. The HX Stomp is super user-friendly, and we can go in and edit this by simply clicking the View mode. And then this is going to bring us where we can actually see our signal chain, and this is going to be called the Play mode. And so I can go in and easily navigate using this top row and move between my different blocks. And then don't forget on the far left and on the far right, you do have your inputs and your outputs where you can go in and adjust this specific preset if you want to add something like a noise gate at the front of your signal chain. Now, let's just say I want to go in and adjust this specific compressor. All I have to do is adjust the 3 knobs right here, and each of those are going to correspond to a respective parameter. If I want to make an adjustment, I can simply move these around left, right here. If I actually click on that, it's going to restore it back to whatever the factory default or the user default is for that specific effect parameter. And then one other super helpful setting here is if you go over, you'll notice where it says page right, and there's this little bar right here. You can actually navigate to different sections or pages within that specific effect. Now, if I want to go in and let's say make my adjustment, all I have to do is hit home and action at the same time. This is where I can save that entire preset or rename it if I want to. And then right here, you'll also notice if I go in and use this bottom knob, then I can save a different location for that specific preset. One other helpful tip here is if I click on action, this is where I can move that effect to a different block. If I want to create an A and B path, I can do that here, which is really common with different types of amps, or if you want to run something in stereo. And then also notice here where we do still have additional pages. So if I wanted to add this effect as a favorite or as a user default, I can make those adjustments. This is probably a little more detailed than we need to get into in this video. So if you have questions, be sure comment down below. Let me know. Love to help you out. Now, if I want to get back to my settings, I can just simply hit that view button right there. Now, if I want to adjust to maybe a different type of compressor, all I have to do is adjust this bottom row, and you'll see that it's moving between the kinky comp, the red squeeze, and the deluxe comp. This is going to navigate between different effects within that one category. But if I want to entirely change, and let's just say I wanted to put a wah at the beginning of my signal chain, if I click on this bottom button, I can see all of the effects within this specific category. If I go back between my pages here, then I can go in and select maybe an EQ, modulation, pitch, wah. Again, either click down on that bottom knob or hit the page button. And then this is where I can go in and add that. And again, be sure to hit save if you want to make those adjustments to this specific preset. Now to navigate into our menu, it's super easy. Just hit page left and right. And this is where we'll be able to go in and make more global adjustments to our HX Stomp. Now, to start, I want to hit our bypass assign. And in this case, we've got our delay assigned to foot switch 2. Let's just say I wanted to move that to foot switch 1. This is where I can do that here. You'll also see an option here where it says latching or momentary. And the difference there is latching will be if you click the effect, it fully engages it until you disable that effect. Versus when I go back into my bypass assign, if I switch it to momentary, that pedal is only going to be engaged as long as I leave it clicked. Now, you may be asking, hey, when would I ever want to do that? What I personally use it for, I've got like a pitch effect that I think is kind of cool to turn on and off just by momentarily clicking the pedal. That could be one instance. Of course, you can do it for a multitude of other things as well. Let's navigate back to our menu. Controller assign is going to be very similar, but a slightly different application. And in this case, if I want to control a specific parameter within that effect, this is where I can go in and choose, maybe I want to adjust my feedback and specifically assign that to foot switch 2. Right? So if I go in and I want my feedback to progressively increase as I have my momentary switch clicked for foot switch 2, I can hold that down here and it's going to move the feedback up and then bring it back down using this. This can also be used for your compressor, your amp if you want to control breakup, and a ton of other things as well. But my personal recommendation would be to use snapshots if you want to make these sort of adjustments, just because I personally think it's a little bit easier to use. Our command center is where we're going to be able to go in and control MIDI signals, which I won't dive into in this video. If we go over our page, we've got our global EQ. And in this case, if you want to go in and add a high or low pass filter to your HX Stomp, this is a great place to do that. Or if you just simply like the sound of certain frequency ranges, this is where you can add, remove, or boost those here. All right, let's go in and let's deep dive into our global settings. So we have our global settings here. If we click into this, there's quite a bit of information here, and I'll do my best to quickly kind of break this down for us. Okay, now if we click on global settings, there's a lot of information here. If I simply use this top row, this is where I can go in and navigate to different settings. The ins and outs is, of course, all my inputs and my outputs for my HX Stomp. In this case, if I want to control the line level or instrument level output for my different inputs and outputs, my send, my returns. And then as we scroll over here to the right, the other good call out would be our phone monitor. If I want this to be a send instead of for headphones, or if I want this volume control to be for the main HX Stomp or just for my headphones only. Navigating here to the right, we've got our preferences, and this is where I can go in, and if I want my bypass type to be analog versus DSP, I can make that adjustment here. The snapshot edit, I think, is going to be an important piece to remember. In this case, if you want to recall those previous edits you have made in a snapshot while staying within a preset, leave that here. In this case, that means if I go between snapshot 1, snapshot 2, it's going to retain all of my edits versus if I leave it as discard, it's going to remove or delete those every time I move off of that singular snapshot. For the tempo pitch, this is going to control whether or not the stomp gives you that weird little boop as you move and switch between tap tempos. If you want it to be more transparent and you don't want to hear that, you can adjust that here, or you can leave it as authentic. Now for my foot switches, right now we have our stomp select. Right now I have it set to touch. There's a few different options in here, press, touch. I personally have it for touch, which now means in this case, if I click on this, it goes in and it pulls up that specific pedal, or you can have it where you just click down and then it turns it on and off from there. Going back into our foot switches, the tap tempo option, this is probably the most requested piece of wanting to be able to change or adjust. And this is where we can go in and remove this tap tempo. We can make it be a stomp 3. We can make it go up and down on different banks. Now, one recommendation that I do have is I personally use the Jet Micro, which is a MIDI controller and gives me 3 additional stomps for the HX Stomp. If you ever find that you are a little limited with the current 3 options or foot switch options for the HX Stomp, having an external foot switch is really going to unlock and give you more capabilities with the HX Stomp. So in this case, the Jet Micro gives me the ability to go up and down on different banks. There we go. Or if I want to assign this to my tap tempo, use it for a looper, I can do that here as well, and so can other foot switch options. I do have a 10% off link. If you are interested in the micro, check out the description down below. Moving along here, as we pop into our expression, this is where we can go in and control our expression pedals if we did happen to have one here. Our MIDI and then our tempo. Probably the most helpful thing here is the tempo select and then our BPM. If we want to globally set our BPM, we can. And then if we want to go in and also adjust if our tempo is selected per snapshot or per individual preset, we can make that adjustment. And then lastly, it's just going to be our displays. So right now you can see here the LED rings are dim or bright. This turns that off completely. I like having that on so you can kind of see the color of the effect you're about to engage. And then the tap tempo LED will just simply disengage this here so you're not seeing it kind of flash. Again, you can make all of those adjustments through the global settings. The HX Stomp, like I mentioned at the beginning, is a really phenomenal piece of gear. It's jam-packed. If you have more questions, comment down below. I'd love to help you guys out with this unit. With that said, I've got more tips and tricks in this video right here. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later.